My name is Chad Carr. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and one of the co-authors on The Art and Science of Culture, The Power of Seeing What's Hidden.
Matt Herzberg from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm also a managing partner at Principal Transformation.
The thing that Matt and I ran into over and over again as we went in and out of big organizations or any organizations of any size, and we both experienced it ourselves, was there was this sort of water line, and you see that on the front of the book. There's this water level, and things that are obvious we tend to focus on and think about and manipulate and adjust and expect outcomes in our culture. And what we see over and over again is those don't really predictably lead to changes in culture. So people don't behave a certain way because they found it on an employee policy manual, because they covered it in orientation. What they do is they notice what's going on with others in the organization.
You know, the other thing that we saw is that there seems to be in most organizations just something that's missing, right? There's this lack of traction. People are working very hard and they got some really good ideas, but they're just not gaining any ground, and they work at these things year after year and very hard. And so that was one of the things that I always found curious in organizations. And what we realized over and over is that we just saw how these really basic structures were just not there. And so that's one of the reasons why, first of all, we decided to form our own firm. And secondly, to write this book, to really share some of these things that we see that are, you know, although they're right in front of us, they're hidden unless you can really stop and kind of notice them. And once you have them and once you see them, you can actually leverage them to accelerate change and accelerate performance in organizations.
Yeah, principal transformation is about helping organizations transform their cultures one team at a time. So we typically work with intact teams, and then we work to scale in any size organization a culture transformation. Companies are very good at the strategy maneuvers. So how do we turn and pivot? What we're less adept at focusing on is what are the cultural implications of that. So if your strategy is now more about agility than it was before, and we haven't looked at agility in the culture and what are the habits that we all have at all levels in the organization that tend to make things a little slower, then we don't get the agility we need to unlock the potential of the strategy. And that's what principal transformation is about. How do we look at the strategy, the strategic needs today and tomorrow for your organization, and how do we look at your culture and adapt your culture to better suit that?
And the way that we do it is we start out actually at the individual level. So part of the work that we do is leadership development. You know, just first of all, and maybe a little bit different, what we do is we get people really noticing how do they show up as an individual leader. How does that impact their individual effectiveness? How does that impact the effectiveness of those around them? Second thing we'll do is we'll spend time in team alignment and making sure that the team, when they're showing up in a healthy state of leadership, that then now they're crystal clear about what they're trying to create and that they're aligned around the things that are most important. What are those things? Their purpose, their values, their business priorities. Because very often what we find with leadership teams is, although they might be using the same words, when you really start digging into what they're talking about, you'll find wildly different assumptions and wildly different goals around those very high level generalizations. And then the very last piece that we do that Chad was just explaining is systemic or system-wide change, where you get the whole system aligned and energized from top to bottom. Now, that's probably the thing that will differentiate us, because there's a lot of people who do leadership development. There's a lot of people who do team alignment, but then to be able to really energize the system from top to bottom, to align the system top to bottom. And if you're not doing that, you're not doing culture transformation.
Because we had worked inside of organizations and been accountable for driving these types of transformations, we know there are material benefits, financial benefits expected to be returned out of these types of transformations. And so Matt and I both had this focus on outcomes, on results. And so it was one thing to go and help a company with the culture because their engagement scores would lift, they feel better, there'd be more positive spirit. And those are wonderful things to achieve. What Matt and I really differentiated on, the reason we started our own company, is because we wanted to see results.